Well, hello and welcome to Workforce Issue Resolution, brought to you by your Missouri-Arkansas Volunteer Services team. So what is every supervisor's most dreaded situation? Many would say a workforce issue with a volunteer. Good news, the Red Cross has an established workforce issue resolution process that ensures that complaints are handled fairly and equitably. When a workforce issue arises that involves a volunteer, that is your cue to use the workforce issue resolution process. But don't worry, you aren't alone. The Volunteer Services Volunteer Relations team is your partner and can provide support. Here's where I want to clarify some terms because you will hear volunteer relations and staff relations used almost interchangeably. Here at the Red Cross, during our steady state or non-disaster mode, we are referred to as the Volunteer Relations Team. However, during a disaster, we are referred to as the Staff Relations Team. Now that we have that clarified, let's consider the type and severity of volunteer issues that might arise. As you can see on the chart, we have 4 categories of workforce issues. The main takeaway for you here is that you, as a supervisor of volunteers, would only be taking the lead for resolving Category 1 type issues, and that you will be getting assistance from your volunteer relations or staff relations team for most Level 2 issues, and you will always get help from us for Level 3 or 4 issues. So briefly, an example of a Category 1 or supervisor managed issue is minor performance or behavioral issues. So for example, tardiness or absenteeism, or even some interpersonal issues. Category 2 issues are where you, as the supervisor, partner with volunteer relations or staff relations to handle the situation. And examples of Level 2 issues are when, for example, the volunteer has an issue with you, the supervisor. Or it could also be ongoing or escalating performance and behavior issues. For example, if your absent or tardy volunteer becomes a chronically absent or tardy volunteer. So you'll be very relieved to learn that those Category 3 and 4 issues are led by always by your volunteer relations or staff relations team. And examples of these issues are Level 3 is like HR type issues, bullying, harassment, discrimination. And Category 4 issues are kind of your Office of Ethics and Compliance issues, such as theft, illegal or unethical behavior, fraud, that type of thing. So stated differently, what are the issues that supervisors should not try to handle on their own? Always reach out to volunteer relations or staff relations for help in the following situations. Number 1, those unresolved, escalating, ongoing issues. Number 2, severe issues such as physical harm, threat of harm, safety, severe emotional distress. Number 3, issues against you as the supervisor. Issues Number 4, issues related to human resources, harassment, discrimination, or number 5, Office of Ethics and Compliance type issues such as theft, fraud, and related. Once an issue comes to light, this is the process that we should all follow. As discussed on our last slide, if you are the volunteer supervisor, your role will vary based on the category and severity of the complaint. But these are the 4 steps that will happen regardless. So, number 1, a complaint is filed. Often you'll hear of a complaint, not in writing, but somebody coming and verbally confiding in you about a problem involving a volunteer. It could also be in writing, and you will be asked to put the complaint in writing. Number 2, assessing the complaint. What category do you think it is? Do you Do you need help resolving it? Is it so severe that you're required to get help resolving it? The next step is the investigation. Expect to be asked to share any and all of your documentation that you've been accumulating regarding any prior performance discussions with your volunteer. In general, during the investigation phase, volunteer relations or staff relations will reach out to you to let you know what is happening and to provide specific guidance. But for your expectations, just know you may be interviewed yourself. Depending on the severity of the issue, you may be advised to not interact with a volunteer during an investigation. Just be alert to communication and direction from your volunteer relations team. And finally, the last step, when the investigation is complete, we resolve and notify. And your role here again depends on the category of the complaint. Once an investigation is complete, the volunteer relations or staff relations representative will reach out to you to notify you of the recommendations. Your role will be to implement those recommendations. And please note that if termination of a volunteer is recommended, the Regional Volunteer Services Officer owns the process and must give final approval for that. You won't just ever move ahead to terminating a volunteer. So what if you need help dealing with a volunteer work issue? Well, there's a form for that. And from your Volunteer Connection homepage, you'll click on General Volunteer Information and Forms, and then select the Volunteer Workforce Issue Assistance form. Fill that out, and then you'll be contacted by a volunteer relations rep to discuss your situation and to get some advice and assistance. But before you have any workforce complaint issues, I want you to think about, when exactly does performance management begin with your volunteers? Let me tell you, it's long before you're talking with a volunteer about any performance issues. It all starts with step 1 of the performance management cycle, which is when you meet with the volunteer to set expectations. Doing this step correctly and thoroughly and documenting it sets you up to more easily manage your volunteers' behavior and performance. So from there, you are then simply providing regular ongoing coaching and feedback on their performance, reinforcing when they're on track, and giving corrective feedback when they're not. And here's where I'd like to emphasize the importance of documentation all along the way by you, the supervisor of the volunteer. And it's especially important when the volunteer is struggling to meet your expectations. So what is good documentation? It includes details of the problem, what you and the volunteer agree to do about it, and clear consequences stated if improvement doesn't happen. Nobody should be surprised by what happens next. And when in doubt, defaulting to the golden rule is always a good idea. Just ask yourself, how would I like to be treated by my supervisor? So generally speaking, if a volunteer is having performance issues, we are using progressive discipline, starting with verbal corrections, and if the problem continues, escalating to written corrections and final written warnings. That said, the appropriate action fully depends on the nature and severity of the behavior or issue. But happily, you are not alone in this journey. Hopefully, you now feel a sense of calm and confidence, knowing that you are supported by your volunteer relations or staff relations team to manage any issues with your volunteers, from the mundane to the most difficult. Thank you, and we wish you all the best in your new role here at the Red Cross of Missouri, Arkansas.